Most resellers have this really bad habit which really limited me when I was first growing my business, when I started around 16, 17, 18 years old. And my name is Alex. I run an online Amazon, mostly Amazon, but also eBay reselling business, doing retro media and games primarily, basically all of it. And one of the things that's really helped me to grow my business from doing like 40k a year to doing like 300k a year, and it's set to grow from that to maybe about 350 I'm predicting for this year based on my current results, is the fact that when I started, everything was about ROI. Now, what does ROI mean? It means return on investment. Now, that means that if you were to buy something for £1, right, and you were to sell it for £10, let's just say that fees and postage don't exist, right? Although we'll get onto that in a sec. Then you've effectively had 1,000% ROI, right? Like, you've put £1 in, you've 10x'd it into £10, and so you take home £9 of pure profit, and also your initial investment, right? And that's great, that's brilliant. If you could build a business where you turn £1 into £10, you do that 100 times a day, and you make £1,000 a day doing that, that's amazing, brilliant, great. It's very hard to build a business like that though. It's very difficult. Now there is like one certain aspect of my business where I kind of do that. But it is because I'm able to buy the products in bulk, right? They are incredibly small, so they're very easy to store. I can update quantity on them, so they're multi-quantity products where I don't have to create new listings every single time. I just change an 8 to a 9 when I get another one. And they ship in a letter, and everything is brilliant with it. And I love that. I love that part of my business. It's brilliant. However, there's something that kills most of that type of product. And I experienced this when I started. So I would buy a lot of job lots of games off of eBay, right? And what I would do, I'd buy like 100 games, 150 games in a lot. And there'd be maybe 10, 15 games in there that were worth over a tenner, right? So listing and selling those, brilliant, great, good business. However, the remaining however many, 90, 120, 130 games, when I started, I would list them. And some of these were selling for $3.99, $4.99. And it's like, what? You need a minimum sales price, because these would also go as large letters. So let's take all of the fees and tax and postage into account now. So let's imagine the buy cost is literally zero. Literally zero. I have to go through the process of photographing this game, maybe cleaning it as well, right? So receiving the game, inspecting the game, cleaning the game, photographing the game, checking prices of the game, listing the game, storing the game, and then shipping off the game and paying fees on that. So if I'm selling it for $5.99, I got my promoted listings. Let's say that takes 60 pence, or let's just say 50 for easy maths, so £5.50. And then I've got my postage, which will be like £1.80, because it will be a large letter. It will be 100 to 250 grams. Let's just say that's £1.50, just to be really generous, and take us down to £4, right? Realistically, it's going to be more like £3.50, because there'll be final value fees as well. You've also got to take into account that you probably do have a little bit of buy cost on it. Let's say £3. You've got your tax to pay, right? So depending on how your tax is set up, you may have to pay VAT on that. So that might take £1 off, down to £2. And then you've got to consider things like corporation tax on your profits. So even if you're profiting £2 on that, let's say you get taxed at 25%, that's another 50 pence, bringing it down to £1.50. That's assuming you even sell it. a lot of the time these low value items just don't even sell. And so you're sitting there, you're storing the item, you've got no way to liquidate it because it's not worth anything. If you drop the price down to £4, still no one's going to buy it because it, you know, if it's up for £6, it's not worth anything anyway. So you see my point here. I would have hundreds of these items which, you know, made me feel good. I was listing a lot. You know, people say you have to list 10 items a day, 15 items a day. Oh, let's get my listings up, right? But you just don't make any money on it. You're wasting your time. Because even if you make £1 on it, let's say you make £2 on it, big numbers. Well, how long has that taken you? To buy the item, to clean the item, to photograph the item, to list the item, to ship the item, to store the item. All these things take time. And so was it worth it? How many items can you process in an hour? Can you do 10? Okay, well, half of them aren't even going to sell. Half of them aren't going to sell. So you've done 5 really. And you're making £2 profit on each one. £10 an hour. Is your time worth £10 an hour? I mean, you could work minimum wage and make more than that and have an easier life probably. So I stopped doing that. If I have an item which is, you know, if I do buy a job lot, which I still do, and I still have lots of items that aren't worth listing by themselves, right? That's okay. That's okay. I can liquidate them. I don't have to make any money off of it. I don't really care. I'll make a few pence maybe, that's fine. I just don't want it. As long as I don't buy it for anything, I don't attribute any buy cost to it, that's fine, you know? Now, yes, I still have to make sure that I am accounting for the fact that I am using time to process the item. I do have to sell it in a job lot, right? You know, as long as I account for those things, that's okay. But what has really changed my business, and by the way, you know, me rambling for 7 minutes here about this problem is something that I think a lot of people experience. Now, I personally, you know, do video games primarily, but people will probably find this with clothing, selling like Primark t-shirts or something, just because they can get loads of them for dead cheap, buying, you know, loads and loads of items from the rag house or something like that, right, from liquidation. So I think it applies to every niche really, and it all depends on how long it takes you to process the item. Because like I said, there is a certain niche where I do sell things for like $5.99, but it works because it takes no time, it's multi-quantity, people tend to buy, you know, 3 or 4 in one go. So once you account that, like once you account for that, actually the total order value is like £20, and at that point it's worth it as long as the buy cost is good, which it is, and it doesn't take long to process, right? Higher ASP items is where it's at. What does ASP mean? ASP is average sale price. Very common term. Buying higher value things is something that we all want to do. Of course, you would rather sell 10 things for £100 than 10 things for £10. Of course you would. But here's where I think the conundrum is, because a lot of resellers will be in a situation where they could get, let's say, 15 £10 items for £1 each, right? So let's say they make a £5 profit after all their fees, their taxes and the buy cost on each item, and make £75 a day, let's just say, right? It's like a part-time thing. I'm not sure you can live off of that easily. Let's just say, right? Or you pay £30 for 10 items that are all worth £100 each. Now here's where it gets interesting, because if you're making a £5 profit on 15 items where you have £1 in, that's 500% ROI, return on investment, right? So that sounds really, really bloody good, doesn't it? you've got no capital risk. £1 in, okay, even if you have to liquidate the item, you could probably get £1 back for it, right? If you can do that at scale, great. But it's difficult to do that at scale. If you can, brilliant. But I think this is what a lot of people have happened to them, where they don't want to spend 30 quid on one item, even though it's worth 100 quid. Because they're thinking, oh, bloody hell, you've got the taxes, you've got the fees, you've got the postage, and then, hang on a second, maybe I only 2.5 times my money. So let's say after everything you get 75 quid for your sales price of 100, right? You've put 30 quid into it, that's 45 quid profit, that's 150% of your initial investment. So your return on investment is a far smaller percentage amount than that initial 500%, right? But the difference is that on one item you can make 45 quid, whereas one item selling for £10, right, you only make a fiver, right? Which is better. Again, I think it depends on how long it takes you, because if you're buying 100 quid items but it's taking you 3 hours to test it and clean it and ship it, like it's a big bulky item like a bike or something, I don't know, what is that worth it? Well, maybe not, because maybe it's taking you 3 hours to do that entire process to do one item, right? And then you're only making 15 quid an hour on your 45 quid profit. Again, that's not accounting for some items not selling, having to drop the price. The good thing about higher value items though is that if you do drop the price of them, they're gonna sell. That's one of the really good things that I find, is that actually, even though you have spent more on the item, it has more inherent value and desirability. There's a reason it's worth 100 quid. There's a reason, because it's desirable. So if you drop the price, you're actually just gonna sell it. You know what I mean? You are gonna sell it. And so I actually think it's far less risky to spend more on the item and do fewer items and make more money per item. Now do this on a niche that you are good at, that you are an expert in, right? Because yeah, if you spend 30 quid and actually you've bought something that's fake, and then, you know, you've bought it from like a charity shop or something, and you know, you're hardly gonna drive 20 minutes to the charity shop to return it, that's hardly worth your time. Like, then okay, maybe it is a bit more risky, sure. But if you're an expert in your niche and you know, yeah, this is a good item, this is desirable, worst case scenario, I buy this for 30 quid, absolute worst case, I have to sell it for 50 quid, and after my fees and my tax and all of that, I make a fiver. Hang on, that's the exact same amount that you're making per unit on the other example. It's the same amount. So which is better? Again, I think it all comes down to how much money you are making per hour. ROI is great. Return on investment is great. But if you could buy a yacht, let's say you could buy a yacht for, I don't know, 10 million quid and sell it for 10,100,000, and let's just say, you know, there was no tax on any of that, and for some reason you had 10 million lying around, so you've spent 10 million and you sell for 10.1 and you make 100k and it sells like that, you'd do it, wouldn't you? Of course you'd do it. That's just 100k immediately. Now why does that work? Well, because it's such a big amount of money that the ROI is irrelevant. It doesn't matter that you've made like a 1% return on investment. It doesn't matter because it's 100k. Of course you take that. Again, though, it comes down to time, because if it's going to take you a month to broker that deal, is that worth it? Well, making 100k in a month is pretty damn good. Yeah. If it's going to take you 5 years to do that, is it worth it? Well, that's 20k a year, probably not, no. So it is down to time as well. That's the whole idea. ROI is deceptive. It's very deceptive. Because you also have to make sure that you know that there are fixed costs to business. There's fixed costs. Storage is a fixed cost. Shipping is a fixed cost. Now, when you sell an item on somewhere like eBay or Amazon, they'll have some kind of final value for your commission or something like that, right? Let's say it's 10%. Or, well, let's say it's 20%. Let's be realistic here. Let's say 20%. If you sell something for £10 and, you know, the platform takes a 20% commission, they get £2. If you sell something for £100 and they take a 20% commission, they get £20. The cost is a variable cost. The cost rises with the price of the item. There are also fixed costs. So if I sell a video game for £3, it's going to cost me £1.85 to send that with Royal Mail second class large letter. If I sell a video game for £100, it's going to cost me £1.85 to ship that out with Royal Mail second class large letter. Now maybe I send it tracked 48 and I pay £2.75. Well, the cost has either, if I stick with the second class option, my cost on my postage is exactly the same. If I sell something for £1,000, it's exactly the same. Or you go for a slightly higher tier of postage, but if my sales price has gone from £10 to £100, that's a 10x increase in how much money I'm getting. Because again, the variable costs change, right? But the fixed cost of postage is staying the same. So I'm getting a higher percentage of the actual sale price in my pocket. Because if postage is £2, let's just round it up, on a £10 sale, that's 20% of all the money I'm getting, not counting for the fees, they're variable, just on the postage. But if I sell it for £100, bloody hell, some ducks crossing the road. That's unreal. What's he doing? That's so funny. Oh my god, I just lost my train of thought. Yes, so the postage could be 20% of the money you're getting. Whereas if you sell it for £100 and your postage is, let's say you go for a good service, it costs you £4, bloody hell. Well, that's only 4% of your total sale. So you are paying a smaller proportion of your sale price on those fixed costs as the price of your sale increases. Now, I know it's hard to find items that are worth £100 or more. It's hard to find items that are worth £30 or more. I get it. I totally get it. And it's very capital intensive to be buying £100 items for £30 a pop, because they're not going to sell immediately, are they? It might take 3 months to sell. I know it's capital intensive. So I'm not saying to immediately switch your entire business model. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying to never sell low value things ever. I'm not saying that. There are contexts in which it makes sense. There are contexts in which it doesn't make sense. I would urge you to look at your own business, and when you sell an item, when you go to pack it up, right, think about how much time you spent on that item. Finding the item, cleaning the item, photographing the item, storing the item, shipping the item, responding to customer questions about the item, all these things, right? Think about how much time that's taken you. Think about how much money you get from that sale after all of your costs are taken into account. Your buy price, your fees, your postage, your tax. Of course you have to consider the tax. Of course you do. We live in Britain. Well, I do anyway. Take all those things into account. See what the final number is. How much time's it taken you? How much money have you made? And turn that into how much money are you making per hour? And have a number that you want. This is what I personally did. I mean, I decided that I wanted a certain amount per year, and then I just like brought that down to per hour, right? And if it's not hitting that metric, maybe don't stop doing those items immediately. Yeah, again, because it does provide an income. I get that. You can't just change your business completely overnight. I get that. But maybe start to try a few higher value items and be willing to pay more for them, you know? And just see how it goes. Just see how it goes. I'm sure it varies by niche. Again, I do video games and media. I'm sure it's different in clothes. I'm sure it's different in antiques. I'm sure it's different in cars. I'm sure it's different. I get that. So I'm not telling you you have to copy what I do. I'm not saying that. But I am saying to take it into consideration. That's all I'm saying. I hope this video was useful. If it was, please drop a like and subscribe, and comment your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. I hope this was useful for you.